Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Out in the Open with Open Arms. We're so excited to come back in here again and share with you more about what's going on with Open Arms. We last episode was with Stephanie from our intake department, and we talked about the process of recruiting surrogate mothers, and screening them, answering their questions, what qualifies, what doesn't, and it was a lot of fun as always. So we decided this time to take a vote and said, who would you rather talk to? We already knew what your vote was going to be, but we said, how do you feel about talking to an intended parent who has gone through this process or is going through this process, or an attorney? And I think we were at a little over 70 to 30, and the joke is that our parent now is also an attorney, so it's kind of double. It's a win-win.
Right, win-win.
So we're so excited to have Tim Sullivan with us here.
Very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. We're so excited. There's so much to talk about from the perspective of someone who needed surrogacy, went through this process, and what that was like for him and Courtney, and for his family, and going through this process. So a lot comes to mind, but let's start with why surrogacy? How did that come about?
Sure.
And
so Courtney and I have an almost 3-year-old
Yes.
that we conceived the old-fashioned way.
yes.
And it was a relatively normal pregnancy, no problems, until we got to the delivery.
Yeah.
And things just went very south on us. It was just, things were not right from the get-go. Contractions were going for 5 minutes at a time, and then not uncontracting, for lack of a better term. I would say after about 10 hours, the doctor recommended a C-section. Courtney and I said, no, we know better than you, doctor. So we kept going and kept going and kept going, trying to deliver the old-fashioned way. And ultimately, we were put in a position where we had to have an emergency C-section, which is not good. And things just went really bad, and Courtney had to have a surgery that went for about 8 hours, about a dozen blood transfusions. She was very close to not surviving. She did survive. They had to do an emergency hysterectomy for that to for her to survive. So after that, she recovered. It took about a month to recover, and it was, the fact that we couldn't have a child the old-fashioned way again is something that, it was just like the dog that didn't bark in our relationship. We didn't talk about it. It went a year and a half, 2 years, and we never talked about it. And then one April day in Texas, I was in Texas for a conference. We were out to dinner. It was her birthday, and we got to talking about, we both had an itch for another baby, and that was how this was all birthed.
Wow. Did you know anything about surrogacy? I mean, going through this process, okay, we have one, we're blessed, and my wife is okay and healthy, and then we don't talk about it, and then we knew we want more, we want our family to grow more. But did you back then think surrogacy, or did you think, how can we, now that we can't have it the natural, traditional way?
I didn't think about surrogacy. I didn't know a lot about it. I've seen friends. I know Phoebe carried her brother's kids, so I knew enough.
I love it.
But, it wasn't on the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
I do remember when Courtney woke up in the ICU, she asked the surgeon if she still had her ovaries.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So, it was something that obviously she had been thinking about. We talked about it. We talked about all of the options that existed, adopting and things like that. And it was just really on our hearts to try to have another biological child.
So how did surrogacy come about?
Well, like any good idea, we started with Google, and we researched, how to do all this, how to start, and we came across several different surrogacy agencies and interviewed you and other people over the phone, And ultimately, we landed in your old office, not this very, very nice office, although your old office was nice too. And we met with you, and I think that was in July of 2017. And we were sold, I mean, almost immediately.
Oh,
so
thank you.
So that's how we got started. You know, our first stop was to meet with you, and you know, we didn't know the other things. You know, getting an escrow, getting a lawyer, getting you know, doing the IVF treatments, and where do you go do the IVF? So having you guys on board right away, you know, kind of served as, you know, you guys kind of called the plays and told us what to do. So it's very helpful for people that were rather naive about the process.
Yeah, I always, and we didn't pay him to say this, but I love you for it, thank you. I always say to my clients that it's really always easier and better when you start here.
Oh, for
when
sure.
you start here, and then you say, okay, now I can make an educated decision about where I want to go for an escrow, where I want to go for, you know, whatever it is. How do I want to select a surrogate mom? And then we talk about things that you probably have not processed when you decided I want a surrogate, because we talk about, well, what contact do you want with her now, and what contact do you want with her afterward, and how do you feel about transferring more than one, or what if we have to do an abortion, God forbid, and all these things that we threw your way that you're probably like, okay, I want a surrogate, but I did not really process through all of this.
Right. You know, one of the things that really drew Courtney and I to Open Arms was you've been around for a long time.
15 years.
So you knew all the players involved. You were able to guide us through, and we were like, well, these are the couple of IVF places that we could go in our area, and there you were, spitting the doctors' names at us, and here's what I know about the doctor. So it was, you know, it gave us a lot of comfort knowing that you knew everybody.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And so when we talked about the matching process, again, you know, with keeping Courtney in mind, what was so important to you in a surrogate mother once you made that decision that you want to go through with the surrogacy process?
Right. Well, the first thing you should know is when we made this decision to do this, I became somewhat obsessed with surrogacy. I really did. I read.
We felt it too.
Right. I've read everything that there is to read. And, you know, Courtney, you know, she has a lot of friends, a lot of family members. We received offers from family members to carry our child. And then I read this Supreme Court case from California called Johnson versus Calvert, where they did this whole family member or friend carrying for the couple, and things just went really south, and then you had this very ugly legal battle. And, you know, for us, this was just so important that we wanted someone with experience. And we wanted, you know, as much of a guarantee as you could get that you're not going to find your name in a case. So the matching process, when Courtney and I first met with Souad and Kelly, I think at the time, it was almost immediately that they said, well, I think we know someone. You know, it wasn't a sure thing, but it was very quickly that they said, we think we know someone. And then probably a week went by, and there was a profile that was created for us that outlined, you know, who we were and how we got here, and, you know, here's our 3 dogs and that sort of thing. And that was provided to the surrogate, and then we were given a similar profile sheet for the surrogate, and you know, she hit, I mean, every single thing that we wanted. We wanted someone who was that we could get to. We didn't want someone that we had to fly out of the country for.
Want someone local.
You know, I had said, you know, anywhere that Southwest flies,
we're
good with that.
Yes.
And then you guys said, well, you can't fly there on Southwest because she lives 2 hours from me. So it really worked out. It really worked out really well for us. Right, and we wanted someone who had done it before. We didn't want, and you know, that's not for everyone, but we wanted someone who had done it before, that had gone through the process of giving birth and then giving the child away. And you know, that was very important to us. And that was about it. And then we scheduled, there was like a video
meeting with her. We did a Zoom.
Right, with you guys and her, and she was at home and we were at home, and you guys were at your office.
We talked.
And it was, you know, really kind of took on a life of its own. My wife and Erin were doing huge percentage of the talking, and you guys.
It's a beautiful thing
right.
when you start it and then it takes over. It's like we step back.
Right.
When we don't have to do that much work, it feels like the connection was immediate.
Right. So you guys, facilitated some of the,
Yeah.
the things that needed to be discussed. But no, that was like, I think another day later, we both had to email you and say, yeah, we want her,
Yes,
and she
confirm.
emailed and said we want them, and that's how it all happened. What we had read online was that this matching process could take a year, could take 2 years. We were just really blessed that it was a week. I mean, it really was like a week that we had a match.
I think from meeting with you and Courtney, and my wheels were turning as you were talking to me and hearing your story, and we were coming from what is it you're needing, that the universe just worked in a mysterious way, because I had Aaron in my mind the whole time, going like, I know the one, I know the one, I know the one, and it just worked out beautifully. Yeah. So we get pregnant. Let's talk about the challenges. I mean, we had some blessings and we had some hiccups, and let's talk, as an intended parents back then and the parents now, going through this process, how do you see the challenges and that you've gone through? The ups and the downs,
sure.
we want to highlight the good and the bad, things that we didn't expect.
The good things, we didn't know whether we would get pregnant right away on the first try, and obviously the IVF process itself was a lot more invasive for Courtney than we expected. Right. The doctor told us maybe a day of recovery, and it was significantly more recovery for her than we had expected. So that was kind of a down at the beginning. But when we had the implantation day, which was just an incredible day, Erin and her husband were there, Courtney and I were there. It was just great. And, the fact that Erin and Joey had gone through this twice before, they had so much confidence, which was really, gave us confidence.
Yes.
I remember Erin and Courtney had gone in for the surgery to implant, and it was Joey and I. And Joey's like, yeah, she's going to get pregnant.
He's amazing.
Don't sweat.
That guy is amazing.
This is going to happen. And he was right, and we got pregnant on the first try, and that was good. It's obviously you're this is an expensive process. You're throwing all this money at a dream, and there's no guarantees. There really is no guarantees. Yeah. And at the very outset we had success, which was the goal. And then, if you're out there and you're thinking about being an intended parent and going through this, I would encourage you, do not plan to travel ever.
Stay put.
I had one trip to see my dad. I go up every year in July, and I flew up to New York, and I was there for 2 days, and I get a call from my wife at 7 in the morning, so I knew something was up, and she told me that Erin's water had broke at 24 weeks. Yeah. And I'm a guy, I didn't know what that meant. I assumed that if someone's water breaks, that a baby is about to come out. Yes. So I didn't think anything about it. I got lucky. I was able to get on a flight like an hour later. Yeah. I flew right into Orlando, which is where she was. Had very little communication with Courtney because at the Florida Hospital for Women, the cell phone coverage is like terrible. Terrible. So I got in a cab. I got over there. I got an email. I can't remember if it was I think it was from the lawyer with our surrogacy contract. Yeah. So I will tell you that I was of the belief that the baby had been born. So the whole ride, half-hour ride, I believed that the baby had been born at 24 weeks, and that's why she had sent me the contract. Yeah. So I get there, and that wasn't the case. And then we were confronted with this new hiccup in the process that was contemplated by everyone. It was something that we all knew could happen. Yeah. We didn't expect it to happen, where our surrogate was going to be hospitalized on bed rest for an indefinite period of time that ended up being 10 weeks. Yeah. A hardship, not necessarily for us other than in our hearts, was that we were relying on this person, Erin, who was now having to be away from
family
her
and work,
just 2 kids and work. And it was very hard. We felt terrible. Yeah. This is not what she signed up for.
Yeah. And you can't see this coming at all, because Erin has been an experienced surrogate, delivered her own children to full term, delivered the last pregnancies full term, and this came out of the blue. And it was hard for the surrogate as well, because they feel like, I'm supposed to do this for you,
Right.
and here I am.
I think that was another thing that was really hard on us, is that, you know, Erin is the sweetest person ever, and she felt guilty, like it was something that,
exactly.
and we're like, no, you have our child. Of course, this was going to go wrong. You
Oh,
know,
no.
you know. So it was, you know, we felt really bad. Luckily, you know, Courtney and Erin developed a good bond, and they were texting every day, and we were getting updates, and you know, we collectively, you know, our family and her family, we were holding our breath for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted to get to 34 weeks. We knew that if we got to 34 weeks, that things were going to be good, and that's where we got.
We did. I went to visit Erin in the hospital, and I loved it when I walked in. Her husband was there, mom, dad, her 2 kids. We put a care package together, and we're like, how many Netflix shows can you possibly watch, but get caught up there, you know?
Right.
But she made the best of it, and it was really, the place was really homey, and she had a lot of support.
She did.
She had a lot of support, but like you said, you know, you feel bad for your surrogate, and then she felt bad for you.
Right.
But the outcome was still amazing, and we had a baby, Emma Shea, like a fighter, a little fighter. I love her. She's amazing.
So she came out 2 weeks ago today, 2 pounds and 14 ounces. So she's a little thing.
Yeah.
There were concerns, you know, very real concerns about her lung development and things like that. And then she came out and she shocked all of the doctors. I
not
mean,
us, but like she's a Sullivan. Are you kidding?
She, you know, her lungs were great. You know, that was the big concern, and she had a breathing tube for a day and a half or 2 days, not long at all, and then now all she has is a little CPAP. So.
And you're looking to hopefully she'll be home, you're thinking, within the next couple of weeks?
You know, we had our heart set on next Friday. It's our 5-year wedding anniversary.
Oh.
But just, you know, they want certain weight and things like that. And we're just, you know, it's unrealistic to think that we'll be there. So we'll be spending our anniversary in Orlando.
Hey,
that's
you know
okay.
what? It's a beautiful city. I love being in Orlando. So before we wrap up, thank you so much for sharing this story with us. I know it's home, basically.
Right.
It's a lot, but I can only imagine how much it's helping people that are thinking about doing this process. We always say it's not going to be easy. It's not, you know, but you have to be strong, and you have to be ready to take on whatever is going to come our way. We will roll with it. We will make it work. It's going to happen. So I want to know, before we leave, how you told me like you were obsessed about surrogacy.
Right.
And in knowing everything you know now about surrogacy, there are things that you were not kind of, you said to me, I could have done better, you know, outside of the agency, let's be clear.
Right.
So this kind of led you to thinking about a book.
Right. So
tell me.
A couple things. I started writing a book about our journey and what we did and how we did it, and I'm still working on it. Things kind of changed. Our circumstances changed, so I haven't had the time to write it. I've got like 6 of 14 chapters written, so I'm getting
there.
You're
halfway there. That's
good. The other thing that I did is I started an escrow company. Escrow, you don't think about escrow. It's not one of the major features, but it's important that if you're an intended parent that you have someone trustworthy that is unrelated to anyone and managing the money in a way that you feel secure. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a process that is a huge investment in your future and your life, and you want to make sure that that you trust the people involved. Now, we had a surrogacy or an escrow agency that did a fine job.
Okay.
And, you know, certainly there's nothing, you know, I never felt like my money was in jeopardy or anything.
Right.
But along the process, there was just things that happened where I said, if this were my company, I would have done it. I would do it differently.
Yes.
You know, primarily contact with the intended parents. You know, I got an email 3 weeks before Emma was born, saying that I needed to send another large amount of money.
Yeah.
And it just, the bedside manner I thought could have been better.
Okay.
And that's, you know, what I hope to do differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, to be a small part in helping people grow their families. So.
And it's amazing to be able to share, listen, I've been where you are.
Right.
And I know what your concerns are, and I take them to heart, and I'm going to do things differently for you. I think there is something about sharing that experience with your future clients. What is escrow called?
It's called My Surrogacy Escrow.
Yes.
So we have a website that is in the process of being developed.
Yes.
Right now there's a Growing Family Escrow website, growingfamilyescrow.com. We changed the name to My Surrogacy Escrow. So it's in the process. It'll be there soon.
So you're an attorney.
I'm an attorney, yeah.
So are you thinking maybe about reproductive law, maybe?
Well,
Yeah.
I certainly have, gotten my fair share. I mean, I really am. I send you articles about things.
Yes, I love them. I love you find things I didn't even know about.
So it's it's very interesting to me. If someone had a question or wanted me to help with their contract, I'd be happy to do it. I have another area of practice that is a passion of mine too that I'm going to continue to do. But this is a field where there's very few types of law that you can practice where you really feel good at the end of the case. Like, usually there's a winner, there's a loser. With this, there's winners and winners. So I think that that's why I'm interested in it.
Yes. Well, we can't wait to continue to be the support that you need us to be. As you were an intended parent, you became a parent. Now you are going to be working alongside with us, on cases, so we can, we're so excited for that. And,
sure. And I would say for the intended parents out there that if you're thinking about doing this and you're interviewing different agencies, whether it's for the surrogacy agency, whether it's the escrow or the lawyer, you should ask for a referral of someone who has been a client that's gone through it. I told Souad that is something that I would be willing to do for her.
Thank you.
Because it's, you want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
And, what you'll find if you look on the internet is, and I have a small business, so I know this, is generally people that are very happy with you and people that are very unhappy with you. Those are the two types of reviews that you get. And I think that it's important to have a real discussion with someone who can give you the insight on each of these different areas.
And I have to say that you were not the easiest client.
I know.
Just so we're clear, he was not the easiest client.
Terrible client.
Tim, there's a slide that comes with Tim.
Right.
But we grew to appreciate that. I mean, really when you go down to it, it's like your requests were valid, your questions were logical, what you needed was important to you. So, we really enjoyed working with you and Courtney. We
did too, and I'm sorry.
And I have it recorded.
Right.
You said you're sorry. No, please. So excited. I'm so happy to have you here. We really extremely appreciate your support. You continue to be a support to Open Arms.
You got it.
When nobody expected you to be, it was just really amazing.
Well, we'll be back with Emma when she's home.
I cannot wait.
All right.
You're always a visit.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Take
for
care.
coming. Thanks, Tim. Oh my God, that was great. I'm so excited. I hope you guys got some information out of that. I'm gonna have Kelly, Joe, and me so we can start talking about the rest of Out in the Open. There she is.
Oh boy.
Okay,
As
so
I said here.
that was interesting. That was really awesome.
And you know what? To speak to Tim's experience, I think because of that, it only helps us be better.
Yeah.
And be more of what everybody needs, and everybody in this process, whether you're a surrogate, whether you're a parent, whether you're a donor, whoever needs a different level of support and attention, and that's what's really important about always having these experiences and being able to talk about it in process and be like, you know what, that was you actually had a good point. You know, that could have been done differently.
And it takes a lot for intended parents to be that vulnerable and open and share that story. So you always find surrogates who are willing to share that experience, or donors that are willing to come forward with their experience. For intended parents, it's a private struggle, so we always celebrate people that are willing to come forward and share that story. And it's not always roses and rainbows. We had challenges with his cycle. It worked, delivered early, but we pushed forward, and Emma is doing great and strong.
Yeah.
So on to the rest of the celebration of Out in the Open. So September issue, Sarasota Magazine.
I know.
We were featured.
A celebrity.
Yes. I
We
feel. It was an amazing article. Thank you so much, Nancy Cook, for celebrating us and rating it awesome. What is it?
It's a good picture.
Yeah, I know.
Those pictures.
I know. With Sylvia, I love you, Sylvia. You're amazing, Sylvina, and the little monkeys are twin girls. They were here visiting, and we captured that moment. And they did an article celebrating 15 years of what?
Growing.
Of celebrating,
Yeah.
of being, of challenges and triumphs,
building families and
all of it.
It's
So
amazing. It's amazing that time and where you started, where it was just you, and then to 3, 4, to 8, 9, 10, to 15, 16, 17.
To an amazing team, which means it's an amazing team. So, if you are around, grab a copy. We have our copy, and we're so excited.
I heard through a birdie that Lisa and Viana are watching, and they love this story.
Yay! Yay! I'm so excited.
So thank you.
Thank you
guys
for watching, and thank you for your support and for your love.
Yes.
So take us to October.
October. It's like tomorrow, Monday.
Year.
Oh my gosh, Monday.
It's going by so
2018 is like
blur.
Like what?
Yeah. What year? Yeah. So October.
October. But you know what? October is an important month, especially with what we do, especially with intended parents like Tim. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Oh,
and
right.
what does breast cancer have to do with starting a family? It has everything to do with it. More and more women are being diagnosed earlier with breast cancer and having to go through very, very critical treatments that impact their ability to have children later on. So they have a lot of challenges and crossroads to face. So during the month of October, we're in big support of the awareness of the marches, the support, and to bring to light how this widespread epidemic of breast cancer that affects so many impacts this world. And again, it just stems into the surrogates and helping when this woman who, unbeknownst to her, has to suffer through not only losing her life, the potential of doing that, going through chemotherapy, everything she has to struggle through, and then at the end of it, they say, well, you can have children now.
Yeah.
Like, wow. And that surrogate, again, it's just that possibility. And that's those stories, I think, the stories of couples that come to us because they've had to face those very significant challenges, I think, kind of touches the most, honestly.
Yeah. And I think also that kind of goes hand in hand also with educating the public also, and knowing that if you're going through this treatment, maybe there's something that you can do about retrieving your eggs and freezing them prior to going in with treatment, which before was not really available or people were not really aware of it. So prior to going into treatment, if you're thinking about building your family, talk about your choices and your options about whether you need to retrieve your eggs and freeze them, and prior to going into treatment, and what that looks like for you. We're excited to maybe bring some more. Comes the episode in October about the subject. Questions.
Yeah, we have 2 questions.
We have 2 questions. We have one from Facebook.
From Christine on Facebook.
Okay.
The question is, what is the cost for self-pay egg recipients? Okay, so this is an intended parent then?
So I'm assuming you're an intended parent looking to use an egg donor and go through the process of IVF. I wish I could give you a price. I wish I could do that.
Well, what's the point of answering this question?
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
just
So mean. So mean. Is it a Friday?
It's
Why
Friday.
are you so mean? Anyway, the idea is that every fertility clinic is different. They have their own fee schedule. So depending on what city you're at and what state you're at, and whether you're going to use the clinic's donor program or you're going to use a donor from an agency, it's
there's a lot of variables.
it's a loaded question. There's a lot to talk about,
But
call us.
yes.
Call us. Happy to walk you through it, talk a little bit more about it, discuss the options. Give us a ring, 941-741-4994, my direct extension, or yours, 1003. Thank God I have her around.
So yeah, that process, it really depends on
So we
what
can talk a little bit
component
more.
you're talking about.
Yes.
A first-time egg donor, for example, can probably earn about $6,000 in base compensation.
Can
That's
go
just
up
for her to go through this process and go through the retrieval. That's just for her. Now, if she's experienced, that's going
More.
to increase depending on how many times she's done it.
Right.
So that's just an example of how many variables are involved.
Is she
in
local
this.
to your clinic where she does not
Do we
have
have to
to?
pay
You
for
have to pay
travel?
for travel. Is she not? Do we have to worry about flying her in a hotel, a car rental?
Yeah.
All those things like play into the cost. So give us a call. Happy to walk you through it. Answer that question in more details once I know a little bit more about where you are and what is it that you need.
Yeah.
Next
So,
question.
Next question.
Twitter.
From Trisha on Twitter. Whose decision is it to how much contact the intended parent and surrogate mother will have throughout the journey?
Yours and your IPs. You know, we don't get to dictate that. We really go for what comes naturally. Let's see what kind of vibe you two have, what kind of bond you two have, how much contact you want, how much they're comfortable with. And no matter how much you talk about it in the beginning, what develops is always different and is always better. So, you know, you might be comfortable with, you know, a few emails or text messages
updates after the
or,
appointment.
you know, a Skype every now and then or visits to some of those appointments depending on whether you're local to your intended parent or not. Tim was talking about being an hour, 2 hours away from where his surrogate is, so that kind of allowed them to see each other a little bit more, and that's the kind of relationship that they wanted with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So really no one can dictate that to you. You see what you're looking for and you let the agency honor that. So if you come to me and you say, I am looking to really have a lot of contact with the intended parents, I'm not going to match you with someone who's not looking for that level of contact. We want to match you with someone who's like-minded, a good fit for you, so it flows and it fits and feels comfortable and feels good. So I hope that answers your question.
I think the only thing I will say to that, though, is, you know, during that process of matching with intended parents as a surrogate, in going through all the evaluations to get that final point where, yes, you officially can be a surrogate. So you have to go through a psychological evaluation, medical evaluation. Then we have a legal contract that always needs to be completed.
You mean all the stuff that we covered in the last episode?
Right, but relating to contact, though.
I know.
The contact. So we just find it in the best interest of all parties to say, you know what, until we sign that legal contract, we're going to kind of keep you guys through the agency. And the reason why is because we don't want to create any situation that may be intentional or unintentional with coercion during that contract process. You know, that contract process, way back to first episode, I said 2 most important things in surrogacy match is going to be surrogacy journey is the match of who you're working with, your intended parents or your surrogate, and the legal contract.
Yeah, those are important.
2 most important components. So
the what we're saying is that the contact is somewhat restricted prior to signing the contract. But once contract is signed and you have been cleared psychologically, medical, and legally, then
have at it.
Here we go. Get
All
a
right.
drink code.
Okay. Hi Heather. Thank you for watching.
In the
Good.
office.
Good. I'm glad you got to see me.
And me.
And you.
And me. And nobody chopped liver.
Okay.
Thanks for watching, Heather. We love you. So what's coming up? I think this does it for our episode for today.
Yeah. For today. Yeah.
Yay.
Exactly. Next episode.
Oh yes, that's true.
So
we did promise you a tour of the office, but
Yeah.
we're still in boxes. So
Yeah.
please, you know, kind
Still
of
trying to move
forgive
in.
us. We promise by the next time we are going to be hopefully able to walk you through the office, maybe introduce you to the staff.
Yeah.
You get to see everybody and tour with us.
How cool would that be? They get to see everybody.
Yeah, we get to say hello. And we're thinking the next episode, we're going to bring in the 30% that nobody voted for. We're going to have a reproductive attorney in the house. That should... Okay, so maybe we should change that. Like, nobody's going to tune in. I'm sorry. So we're excited to have you next time.
Yes.
Send in your questions.
Thank you so much
If
for
you
watching.
missed an episode, check out our website,
Yeah,
check
go
out
back to
our
it.
YouTube channel. Send us in your questions.
Yes.
We appreciate you and your support, and we cannot wait to meet with you in October, the end of October. Do we have a date yet? I think we're 26th. 26th, and of course we'll harass you and let you know that we're going to be, again, out in the open with open arms. Until then, peace. Thank you.
Jennifer.